The walk from Covent Garden to Leicester Square felt surreal, like stepping into a half-remembered dream. The man walking beside me looked so much like John, my John, but older, warier. His hair had streaks of grey, his face carried lines I didn't recognise, and his eyes, those same grey eyes that once melted my resolve, now held secrets I couldn't begin to guess. My John had left this morning for Germany, a simple delivery job that would take a few days. He'd kissed me goodbye, promising to call when he got there. But now, here he was, or so it seemed, walking beside me in a way that made my heart ache. "Where are we going?" I finally asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Somewhere quieter," he said, his tone low, almost apologetic. "I need to explain." Explain? He'd better. My mind raced with questions, each one more impossible than the last. Who was this man? How could he look so much like John and yet not be him? He led me to the Golden Lantern, a cosy pub tucked into a corner of Leicester Square. My chest tightened the moment I saw it. Of all places, why here? This was our place, the spot we'd spent countless evenings laughing, sharing dreams, and making plans for a future we weren't quite ready for. "Here?" I asked, stopping short. He turned to face me, his expression unreadable. "Please, Hannah, trust me." Trust him? I didn't know what to believe, but something in his voice, in his eyes, told me to follow. Against my better judgment, I did. Inside, the pub was just as I remembered it. The warm light, the creaky wooden floors, the faint smell of hops and spilled beer. Too much the same. We slid into the same corner booth we always chose, the one by the far wall. "All right," I said, crossing my arms. "Start talking." He hesitated, his gaze flickering to the table before meeting mine. "This might sound insane," he said, his voice soft but steady, "but you need to hear me out." "Insane?" I laughed, though there was no humour in it. "You show up looking like you've aged 20 years in a day and expect me to think this isn't insane?" His lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile. "Fair point." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Hannah, I'm not the man you think I am, not entirely. I am John, but I'm not your John, at least not from this time." I stared at him, my heart pounding. "What are you saying?" "I'm from 2025, he said simply. The words hit me like a punch. "You're joking." "I'm not." He reached into his coat and pulled out a laminated card, sliding it across the table. "This is my ID. Look at the date." I picked it up, my hands trembling. It felt real, too real. And there it was, printed in bold, 2025. This doesn't make sense," I whispered. "I know," he said, his voice heavy, "but it's the truth." As I stared at the ID, he pulled something else from his coat, a sleek, futuristic device. My stomach clenched as he turned the screen toward me. It was a phone, unlike any I'd ever seen. But what stopped me cold was the photo on the screen. It was me. Not older, not different, but me, exactly as I was now in 1995. My hair tied back, a loose shirt I used to wear at work, and a smile I hadn't seen in years. My breath caught. How do you have this?" His voice softened, almost a whisper. "I've kept this photo with me for years. It's from before I left, your time. I always carried it. You are important to me, Hannah." The air left my lungs in a rush. He sounded so much like my John, the way he used to speak when we were alone, when he let his guard down. "This is impossible," I murmured. My fingers brushed the screen. The photo felt so real, so personal. "It's not," he said. "Something happened. The timeline's been altered, and I think that's why I'm here. Someone tampered with it, and I got pulled back." I looked at him, my chest tightening. His words were insane, but the way he looked at me, the warmth, the familiarity, made me believe against all logic. Finally, I found my voice. "If you're from the future, where's my John? The younger one?" His jaw tightened, his eyes flickering with emotion. "If I remember correctly, he's on his way to Germany right now. That's where he should be." The words hit me like a stone. My John, my younger John, was still out there, blissfully unaware of the madness unfolding here. "And what happens now?" I asked quietly. "Are you stuck here?" "I don't know," he admitted. "My mission was to track down someone tampering with the timeline. Maybe finding them will set things right. Or..." He hesitated, his gaze darkening. "Or maybe I'll never get back." The thought sent a chill through me. I didn't know this older version of John, but I knew the man sitting across from me. Somehow he was John. Finally, I broke the silence. "All right," I said, my voice steadier now. "Let's say I believe you. What's the plan?" His expression softened. "I need to retrace their steps. They were last seen near Covent Garden, but they could be anywhere by now, and I could use your help." "My help?" "You're the only person I trust in this time," he said simply. "You know me, or at least you know the younger me, and I can't do this alone." I studied him, my emotions swirling. He was older, different, but he was still him, the man I cared about, the man I might even love. "All right," I said finally. "I'll help, but only because I want answers." "Fair enough." As we left the pub, my mind spun with possibilities. The ID, the photo, his words, they were impossible. Yet they were undeniably real, and as his hand brushed mine, I felt a spark I hadn't felt in years. It didn't matter if this John came from another time. He was still John, and I wasn't ready to let him go.